Hey, hello, and welcome to Tech by Sunny. My name is Sunny. Today I'm going to be showing you how to pin the hip gear here on a 7. It's very similar for the 300 series. So your 310, 311, 312. They're very similar, and then all the 7s. So I've gotten to the point where I've got the leg out. And there's some videos out there already on how to get the main shell of the body off and then get the leg off. I may make another video in the future to maybe give you another video on how to do this. But once you're here and you got it to this point, we're going to go ahead and start taking it apart. A couple of tools you'll need is a Phillips head with a J0 adapter bit, some tweezers, sometimes a spatula. This makes it very easy to get into tight areas. Need a little hammer, cleaning brush, and in my case I have a socket bit here. And this part came out from a pulley. You'll see why. I'll be using this in a minute. This allows me to pin or put the shaft back into the gear because it is a press fit. And then in my case I like to use a UV cure glue to secure the pin. The pin is pretty secure once you get it in the gear, but I like to use an extra step to get that. This is my personal jig that I made to help me with drilling and making sure that I got a nice center point on the shaft. This is the pin itself, and I got a pack of the center drill. These are really nice drill bits. Allows you to drill exactly where you're trying to drill. Especially like on a mill, these are center drills, and they won't wobble away. So I have a pack of them. I use the 1.5 millimeter bit because the shaft, or the pinning shaft, is 1.5 millimeters in diameter. And then you will also need a Dremel. This could be any one, as long as you got a disc attachment on there. This is to cut the slot on the gear, and again you'll see all of this in process. I may leave some links down below for some of these tools where you can get them from, but majority of these you can get them from Amazon. The hardest part of this whole removable, especially for the 7, is this screw here, which is underneath the leg, right where it connects to the hip. This bit really helps breaking it because it really bites into the screw. Again, this is the J0. This is an iFixit kit. Love this thing. And I was able to break this glue Loctite really without fail so far. But I have had instances where even this can't even get in. At that point you will need a soldering iron to heat up this screw. Portable soldering iron, it doesn't matter what you use, but as long as you put the soldering iron in contact to the screw for a certain length of time, about 10 to 15 seconds, just to heat up the glue, and then you can come in with this and then it'll break it. So without further ado, I will go ahead and get to the process of pinning. So here's the screw. I've already gotten it out before. And then these 4 screws in the back removed. these screws off. Just go ahead and place them on the side. This little piece comes off, and then this comes off. Okay. And now you have this open cable. Now we need to get this whole gearbox off, and to get this gearbox off, this screw was one of them, but there is another screw that's in here. But to get to that screw in between these discs, this ribbon is blocking that. So this ribbon would need to get unwound. And now I'll go ahead and do that. Just take caution with this ribbon. It is double-sided taped on to the gearbox. And if it's too hard to remove it, that's where I like using this spatula. This is a paint spatula. Comes in really handy. And I would just go in here to break it up until it gets released. Okay, so you're not using too much force on the ribbon. Once it's off here, then you can go ahead and get it out. This little white plastic piece pops off and comes out. Okay. Now I'll go ahead and unravel this cable. And for me, it's I found that you just move the gearbox back and forth to unravel it. And this is where you'll need the tweezers, because you want to hold this ribbon. You would want to hold it flat, because there is a little bit of a stopper, and you'll see it once you do it yourself. But when you hold it flat, you can then clear that little thing that stops it from unwinding to get past it and then unwind the ribbon. And once you do it one time, it's only one time you need to do it with all legs. In the 300 series, it's a lot easier. You don't have to do this in the 300 series, but with the 7 series, you have to do this to get to this screw that's in the back. So I only unraveled it once, and I have access to the screw now that's back here. I'll go ahead and get that. I'll take the tweezers to go ahead and pull out the screw. Sometimes the Loctite keeps it in place, even though the screw is loose. So I'm going to have to finesse it out. Okay. We're going to hold on to these screws. Because now I use them to hold the shaft in place on my jig. So that'll come at a later time. So at this point, this gearbox will come loose. You want to hold this little shield for the hip in place, and you want to give it a firm pull, and the gearbox comes off. Alright. Now we have our gearbox here. This plastic piece, you just go ahead and peel it. It's already loose. And then you'll have this little stopper here. Take note, with all of these stoppers, there is a little indentation on what side the stopper is for. This always faces out, okay? Because on the other side, there's nothing. this little thing. And the part that's printed, it's right here. And that faces out. Alright, now at this point, this is the shaft that's getting pinned right here. So this gearbox, we're going to go ahead and take it apart. While we're in here, we're also going to give it a clean. If there's any dirt present, that's where the brush comes in play. There's about 5 screws here that we'll take apart. Okay, and this will come apart. Okay, and there's the gear. I'm going to take the gear off. We'll take these plastic bushings off, and I like to put it back in. It can only go in one way, the lip side down. Okay, it'll sit in there flush. Same thing with this. Just go ahead and take it out. It'll sit in flush. I can go ahead and take this gear out. Back in here. And here I would, take a close look if there's any dirt, any debris, if it needs any, if it makes a loud noise, any crunching noise, any dirt that gets stuck in here, I would take the gears off and go ahead and brush it. So with this one, doesn't look very dirty, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a brush anyway. There's some dust in here. Alright, and then this is the shaft of interest, basically. Now, to take the pin off, there's 2 collars, there's 2 brass collars. One is a bigger one is a thin one. The thin one is the one that gets popped out. It's much easier. Okay. That's why I use my socket. Go ahead and place it upside down. Put the part that has the bigger brass inside. And take note of the gear. There's 3 dots that faces the part that has the thinner shaft, the thinner collar. So just make sure when you put it back together, that's how it is. And when we get to the Dremel part to cut a slit, it's going to happen on the opposite side of where that 3 dot is, so you know where to cut the slit. And the slit we're going to cut is exactly on center of this gear, and it'll get pinned that way. And I'll show you how that all gets put together. All right, so we're going to go ahead and place it on this, and I'll take the hammer and give it a few taps, and the shaft will pop off. The shaft is almost off. There's the brass collar that popped off. Just put that off to the side. And there's the gear. And there's the shaft. Alright, so we're going to drill a hole in the shaft down the middle. I use a mill, so I'm not going to be able to show this, but I'm going to drill it right in the middle. And it's gonna, let me go ahead and mount this. So this will be on my jig. I'm gonna go ahead and use the screws that was originally there from removing the leg. I'm gonna use that to hold it in place. Alright, so I'm going to use my center drill on the mill. I'm going to put a hole right. Let's see if I can get it to focus here. It's gonna go right under the big collar, very up close, like it's gonna be butt up towards it. And once I drill the hole, I'll clean it up and I'll show it to you. And then as far as the gear goes, all right, it's gonna happen on the opposite side. So here's that here's the little 3 dots I was showing you before. So it's gonna happen on the opposite side of it, and we're gonna cut a slot using the drill mill straight on the middle, right at the middle. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this, and I'll resume once this is done, and put it back together.
A few moments later.
All right, I'm back, and I have drilled a hole on the shaft. So hopefully the camera can pick this up, but it is really close to there it is. It's really close to the end of that large spacer there. Okay, and I used the Dremel again. It's on the opposite side of where the 3 dots are. Opposite side, right on the middle. I've cut a slot. All right. So now I'll take the pin, insert the pin into the shaft, put the gear, and align the slot to the shaft. Okay. Now this is a press fit, so you're not going to be able to push this in. You're going to have to tap this in. So once you got that, give this a few taps until you got it right before it inserts, right before the shaft will insert into the slot. Just make sure you've got everything aligned, and if it's not aligned, you can take a plier and just give it a little twist. You should be able to get it aligned. From there, you just tap it away. Tap away until the gear sits, until the shaft sits flush. Okay, so now you can see I basically pinned the hip. So that pin sits inside the slit, and it basically stops, the pin will stop right at that collar, the brass collar. So you'll have it nice and flush. And at this rate, you could leave it here, but I like to take that extra step. I'm putting my glue to ensure, in the event, from use, it doesn't slip out. So I'll just put a little bit of glue here at the ends of the shaft, just to hold it in place. This doesn't take too long to cure. And a little bit of UV light. Give it about a few minutes on each side. Then I clean this off just to get all the knee. Okay, so after this has been glued, all right, we're gonna put the other spacer back on here. So you kind of just let it fall through. However, you're gonna need to tap that in place, and that's where my other little adapter comes in place. This came in from a pulley, and it was actually the perfect diameter for this to sit inside and not interfere with that shaft. So couple taps, and you'll hear the sound difference. And there's that pin spacer back on. Alright, at this rate, I've already cleaned the gears, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing back together. So the part that has the thicker spacer goes in first, and align that with the pot that's on the opposite side. Close the box back up. Just be mindful on the spacer so it doesn't fall off the bushing. And we're going to go ahead and assemble the box back. Okay. While you're here, we can also clean the pot, and to do that, that's where this spatula comes in. Again, this is a paint spatula, and the way I like to pop this open is taking your spatula and putting it on the long side, so on this side, and slotting the spatula between the metal and the plastic part until it pops up. Just like that. And then give it a twist and you'll hear it click and it pops off. So this is a little bit dirty. You can see the grime building up over time. And then your sweeper, come in with these tweezers, lock it in place, and then now I have that. I'm going to go ahead and clean all this. A little bit of alcohol and a Q-tip. You can see, I'll be able to pick it up. You can see how dirty that sweeper is. Be very gentle with this one. It just needs a very light brush. But this too has a lot of buildup. Okay, that's really it. Go ahead and put this back on. Clean the cover. It's pretty. Pretty grimy. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and align this and then pop it in place. You'll hear a couple of clicks and you'll know it's in. Okay, that's that. we'll go ahead and put the stopper in place. So this is the leg stopper. Just again, take note, the initials for is on the top side. Okay, and then this piece has lost its tack. It's got a little bit. This piece goes on top, tacks in place. And then you take your leg, align it. Just be careful of this ribbon cable once you pop it back in. And we're gonna go ahead and put the one screw on the inside. So that was the lighter colored one. And that goes on the inside. The darker one goes on the outside. Okay, and I'm going to give it one roundabout around the leg for this cable. All right. And put this white spacer back on and put your bracket plastic piece back on. And that pretty much sums up the assembly or the pinning for the ERS 7 and all the 300 series. Thanks for watching.